Testing 1, 2. Testing. Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing. Two, three. Testing. 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 Testing.
Good evening, everybody. Got one good evening out of that. Thanks. So welcome. Do we have anybody new? You were at a picnic last year.
Yeah.
Dan, you're not new. I'm not saying that word. Visiting. So yeah. So we'll get to the new people in a minute. So Bob Kowaleski, would you come front and center, please? I'm going to mention on the side, and you can talk to him about it because I don't think it's a secret, but Bob just suffered some medical issues and came back great. So I have to tell you something. We're really kind of mad at you.
Why?
Because the very first image of the year, you got a 27, dude. That just sets a high bar. Hang on a second. I gotta get my camera going here. Yeah, I gotta take your picture. Cool. Thank you, sir. Welcome. Welcome, the winner. Okay, we've got a lot of little tweaks and new things going on. We're not going to take a lot of time here as usual. So the deadline's been extended for that Suburban Symphony Orchestra in 2 ways. They've extended the date to August 20th, and you can do 3 images now instead of just 2. So please submit something. It's a way for us to kind of shine, because I think we're going to be in the program that says, you know, these wonderful pictures that are playing behind the orchestra were from the Cleveland Photographic Society. Your field trip tickets, I have them right here. And I also have 1 ticket for sale at the regular price. If somebody needs an extra ticket, we have somebody that found it. They can't make it, so I have 1 ticket for sale. And the air show, there is 1 ticket left. As of 4 o'clock today, there was 1 ticket left. So maybe check and see if you know somebody who wants to come, because you can take a guest with you. So a week from tonight is photojournalism. You can submit up to 7 images, and the deadline is, without looking, 2 days. Day after tomorrow, it's Sunday at 9 o'clock. We've moved the deadlines back. You can submit up to 7 images through Shutterscore, of course, and there's going to be a little something special going on, so we'd appreciate those of you at home especially come in and join. I can't tell you what it is because it's a secret. And then a week from then, we have nature competition, projection. The deadline for that is 2 days. Yep, we moved that back also. So you got 2 days. You can submit up to 3 images. I think everybody knows the rules. Be careful with nature, because Denise will hang you out to dry if you put anything that's hand-to-man in there. Okay? So 3 images through Shutterscore. Our picnic is ready to roll. I checked today, we only have 5 people signed up. I know people like to hang back, but please go in and sign up. It's $15. And if you want to bring a side dish, you make something that you think is just extra special, a dessert or a side, you can bring that, but it's not instead of. It's still $15 a person, and it is open to non-members, and it is a heck of a lot of fun. I mean, Catherine really puts the thing together. We have all kinds of games and prizes and so forth. So I've never heard anybody say that they did not have a great time. And we have this awesome tent. So it doesn't matter if it rains. We have a tent that will hold everybody. And if it doesn't hold everybody, then we'll move in here because it's going to be just right outside the door here. Register through the website, through the calendar. Our classes are starting. I registered for 2 classes. Remember, if you've already taken a class, you can take it again for $10. I think we're seeing a lot of that with Lightroom and with Photoshop because they've added so many features. And Fundamentals of Good Photography, you know, anybody who wants to get started, is a great class. So we've got a change here. Dennis Wirt, who's in the audience, is starting up his mat cutting classes again, and they're going to be the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays starting September 1st. And here's the crucial point you need to hear very carefully. You need to go to his email, denniswirt@sbcglobal.net, no later than 5 o'clock on the Monday before, and register and let him know you're coming, because Dennis lives a little bit further away than I do, and it's a hike to get out here. And he doesn't, I agreed, come out here and there's nobody here. So if you wanted some mats cut, you want to do that, make sure you go on his email and let him know you're coming. And we still have speaking opportunities. We're looking for people like you that have some wisdom to share, some information to share. There's a little change. We gave Beverly Frazier, now has her own club email at speakercoordinator@clevelandphoto.org. So if you are interested, send that in. And I think this is really cool. So everybody knows we have community service, right? And a lot of us in here, shoot, people are nodding, shaking their heads. So, but we've never had a community service page on our website. And with Deb Willis running that show, and we've got this awesome webmaster. The two of them got together with Kelly Jameson, and Kelly came up with this website page that's just awesome. It is going to streamline things. So you can see here, it says information for organizations. So if you know anybody that's got a 501c3 and they think they want a photographer for a gala event or whatever, direct them to the website. It's under programs. There's all this information on that they would need to know as an organization. It shows them their eligibility, the requirements about the photographers, and then that email that you see that's got all that information is on our website now. So it kind of like streamlines things so they can fill this out, send it in, and it's going to happen a lot faster, make things easier for everybody. And it's prize time. Okay, I got to have some victims here. Who's not been or who hasn't gotten a prize yet? I recognize that you have. Come on up. Anybody else? Treasure. Come on, Chris. I ran into today at Pixel Connection. There were all these things that were really inexpensive. I should have bought a bunch of them, and it's just too crowded. And so, you know, these aren't the best prices in the world, of course. I need one more volunteer. Come on up, Gary. So we always let the ladies go first. 2. You sure you want 2? Oh, yeah. You have 4x6 photo paper. I think it's 50 in there, something like that. Okay, Dale. Do you like old cameras? I didn't get a chance to check, but I think this was my first camera. Yeah, listen to it. Remember that shutter click? Yeah. I never had the flash attachment though. But I mean, these cameras are so cool. You know, there's you pull out, you load the film, you put that spool over there. People here go, "What's film?" Right? That's now yours. He has one, so you want to donate back? Gary, do you want it? All right, give it back to me. I don't know how to tell you this, but I've got more of these. Okay, we have a bumper sticker. All right. Thanks, guys. So, you guys probably saw the email. We had a last-minute glitch. I'm sure a lot of you know Glenn Petranik. And Glenn, this is no secret medical information I'm giving out because he's posted this on Facebook. He had a knee replacement done earlier in the year, and he, after that, got an infection. And it got so bad, I remember seeing a picture on Facebook. He's holding the little guy that you walk around, an IV to get rid of infection. Well, apparently they must have they went back in and they took the replacements out, and he's been going around with a spacer in there. So 3 days ago, the hospital called and said, we were ready to take you for surgery. So we had an opening, and Richard Ader, always at the helm, was able to come and step up for us and going to talk to us about the Holy Land and Jordan.
I thought you were going to say the hospital called him, told him to come in, and he said, I can't. I have a speaking thing here. That's
here.
okay.
Make sure you're forwarding there.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. When I got the call, I wanted to make it something interesting, and I went through a lot of my things, and basically is the Mideast is in the news a lot now. I have kind of a special relationship with the Mideast. I've been always very interested in it. I've made quite a number of trips over the years, many, many times to Israel and the territories, Egypt, Jordan. So tonight is not only going to be from a photography point of view, it's going to be also encompassing the geography, the history, politics, religion, that type of thing too. Really bring the whole thing in the Mideast together, of course, with all the photographs as well. Anytime there are any questions at all, just raise your hand, shout them out. Don't wait till the end or whatnot, because we'll discuss this at any time. So to try to make it interesting, and I'll keep us on time too. Let's get started then. As always, it's like the disclaimers, is everyone wants to know gear. And I travel kind of with the standard gear. For these trips, I had a Nikon Z7 II, mirrorless, and I carry only 2 lenses, 24-70 and 70-200, because I'm mainly doing people as well. I also carry a small Dell laptop and a 4 terabyte external drive. Every night I download my card to the laptop, back it up to the external drive so that I have 2 backups that stays in the room, and the cameras that I, in a sense, have unlimited memory on my cards then as well. So that's how over the decades I travel, and that, you know, seems to work for me. Again, so let's get into the Holy Land and geography first. The Holy Land basically consists of Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Egypt. Israel is really ground zero here in the Holy Land. It's where most of the religious sites are and where most of the conflict is. And Israel is surrounded on multiple sides, the southern border by Egypt, the eastern border by Jordan, as well as Syria, and the northern border with Lebanon as well. So it is surrounded. And at this point, they all used to be hostile. There are peace treaties now with Jordan and Egypt. These borders are fairly secure. But the borders with Syria and Lebanon are hostile borders, and we'll have several shots there. Israel is a country of many types of just variations, you'll see. You start at Haifa. Haifa is like a cosmopolitan city like New York City. It is on the Mediterranean. You'd think you're on a beach community. There's tons of beaches. I'm north of the city up in Jaffa, looking down the city. So it's all beaches there, all modern skyscraper. It's more of a secular city, very low religious things there. As you move up a little on the coast, Caesarea, you see a lot of the old fishing ports, a lot of fishing there. Go farther north, you get to ports like Haifa. Again, everything is on the Mediterranean. Haifa is the head of the Israeli Navy. Its main base is there at Haifa. This was under heavy attack during most of the wars. What's interesting is just out of the frame here, they have an old factory, but its tower looks like it's one of those concave things. It looks like a nuclear reactor, but it's not. It's like an old car plant or something. But in all the intelligence things, I guess, when they look at it, they think that's what it is. And so it always winds up getting Scud attacks and bombs and whatnot as well. What you're seeing here are the Baha'i Gardens. Now, Israel is also very interesting because people think it's a Jewish state, which it is, majority Jewish. But as you travel around, and it's interesting to really know the country, the Baha'i, which is a really ancient, it's kind of a New Age type of religion that was out of Persia, but very heavily persecuted in Persia and is now located mostly in Israel and the Haifa area too. So a lot of the Baha'i faith there. You have the Druze, which are in the Golan Heights and very, very heavily populate there. The Bedouin are in the south. They are not Jewish at all, and they just roam the desert there and live in tents. You have, of course, all the Palestinians that are Israelis. You have the Christians. A large part of the country is Christian. You have the secular Jews, and separate from that, you have the Orthodox Jews, which are a completely separate entity that we'll get into, completely separate. So there is not just a lot of Jewish people all over. You'll bump into many other types, and it's very interesting to sit down with them and talk. And I had the opportunity to sit with a lot of the Druze, have lunch with them, hear their feelings of really what they think of the whole thing. And the same thing with the Bedouins and the Palestinians. And it is very interesting when you're speaking to regular people and whatnot as well, to get their sides in perspective too. So again, this is up in Haifa. This I use in one of my presentations, you'll see is one of the most fascinating areas. This is in the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea is, you'll see a lot of people like this. I checked at South Park Mall, it's like $10 for an ounce or something of the Dead Sea mud with the healing properties to put on you. When you're at the Dead Sea, it's mud. And you just pick it up and you just slather it on and you go out and you sit on the water. Now, the Dead Sea, in terms of geography, the Dead Sea is kind of in the middle. Now, why is it dead? Because it is deader than a doornail. It is called Dead Sea because the salinity is so high that nothing could live in the Dead Sea at all. No fish, no bacteria. You cut yourself, which you do a lot on the shells and things too. It'll sting like crazy because of the salt, but you don't have to worry about infection because there's just nothing there. But the Dead Sea is in the middle. The Sea of Galilee is up there. Now, the Jordan River is where the Dead Sea gets all its water. From the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River comes down and feeds the Dead Sea. But there's no exit. There's no river going out. And all lakes stay the same size the way they are because the inlet they get from streams is balanced by the evaporation. Evaporation is taking away water, streams are bringing it in. The Dead Sea is the lowest point on Earth in the middle of a desert. So two things are happening. One, they have rapid evaporation, but also is the amount of water coming from the Jordan is getting lower and lower and lower every year because one, politically, it would be a flashpoint that people would cut off the tributaries there, but also there's more water usage and less rain. So it's less and less water each year is going into the Dead Sea, but evaporation is still the same. It's just shrinking and shrinking and getting more and more salinity in it as well. Interesting is the Red Sea is down here. The Red Sea, the Red Sea. And there's a project that they're working on that they will do eventually. It's called the Red to Dead. The Red to Dead is, this is the lowest point on Earth. So basically, you build a pipeline from the Red Sea up into there, and water will flow passively into the Dead Sea. It doesn't need pumping stations or anything like that. So it's just a simple pipe. So that is something that they are working on now to just try to preserve it. Because in the many, many years or many times I've been to the Dead Sea, some of those towns are not there anymore because the salinity is such and the mining companies mine a lot of the minerals out of there. Huge sinkholes just open up and have just wiped out roads and towns and everything. And the lake is getting smaller each year. That's my wife reading Oprah magazine, much to my chagrin. People usually read out on the lake a 5-cent or 10-cent newspaper. So if you lose it, that's it. Oprah at that time was $5. So when she dropped it and whatnot too, I was more concerned about that. But you could see, you'll see people there and you just lay, it's like you're in a lounge. People sit on the water or you could lay on it and you walk out, it feels just like water. So it doesn't feel any different, doesn't feel thick, but then you just go and lay down on it and sit up and read. So it is quite amazing. And there's just one of the other, the people slather themselves in mud and just look. Interesting subjects. Photograph. Again, everyone just, they'll sit there and read or they'll sleep, just like in a chaise lounge. And you can see again, just that mud is just, it's on the ground. This isn't us saying you buy it, they just slather themselves up and you live in there and you go out into the sea and get here. Yeah. How many what? How many jars? No, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take it back to South Park Mall and sell them. That's because this is original stuff too. But it is amazing because when you do see them at those little kiosks there at South Park Mall or whatnot, they are the magical power and it is expensive. When you look at it, it is mud. So just want to let you know, the magical power, it didn't help me. Let's put it that way. That did not help me. And there you'll just see some, like everywhere you look, there's just people sitting on the water there. Again, no fish, nothing there too. You see on these, on the shores, you'll see nothing but these huge salt formations, which are just very interesting because again, it's just pure salt. It looks like a moonscape. This is, again, just on the shores where the lake has receded, or the Dead Sea has receded. Again, so quite fascinating. A little bit northern in the country, you go from the lowest point on Earth to when you're up in Tiberias, which is up in the north. I'm in the middle of palm trees. There are palm trees around me at my back, but I'm looking at Mount Hermon, which is on their northern border, which they have a ski area. So you're standing under palm trees looking at snow, and there's a ski area up there. This mountain in the wars is always very heavily fortified because it's the highest point, and right a little past here too, the border of Syria. So part of the mountain is in Syria. So that again is always every time a war breaks out, that is very heavily contested. No, the Golan Heights we'll get to. The Golan Heights would be, I'm in Tiberias on this side of the Sea of Galilee, and we'll show I have maps where the Golan Heights is. Golan Heights was on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. So it would be just to the right over here. And we'll get into that. In terms of religion, again, our map of Israel, and right up there is the Sea of Galilee. There. And the Sea of Galilee is very interesting. I lived for a while in Tiberias, used that as a base to photograph. On this side, to show you again, the Israeli border went down. It encompasses a very small part. There it is right there. That's Israel proper here. And this was Syria, right up there. So where this line was, and this line out here, that was Syria, which is now part of the Golan Heights. But Israel in the past had that. And when I show you pictures before, and you'll see this was all farm area here too. And there are cliffs right over here, which is why that border is. And all the tractors would have reinforced armor on top because they would just lob mortar shells down here onto the farm. The distance across here, as we'll get into otherwise, is 5 miles. This is literally, people on top. When they first invaded, the tanks were all massed here. It literally just took minutes to get around this part. But this is the Sea of Galilee. Capernaum is up here, and we'll show pictures more up in this area. Right here is where Jesus gave his Sermon on the Mount. Sea of Galilee. There is the Jordan River. The Jordan River comes in the top and feeds this, and then goes out the bottom down to the Dead Sea. That is where Jesus gave his Sermon on the Mount, up there too. So when I show pictures of that area way up there, you'll see in the background the Sea of Galilee just going down. And this area, by the way, unlike Tel Aviv, this is not developed. When you're standing where Jesus did, you look, and it looked probably pretty much the same as it did to him 2,000 years ago. Everything looks the same. There is no buildings, things like that as well, built up stuff. Jerusalem, in terms of religion, the center of religion, is there in the middle. So the Sea of Galilee is up there, a lot of Christian sites. Jerusalem, right in the middle. Now, Jerusalem, so we'll get into, Jerusalem is a big city, huge city. A lot of it. What we think of is that the old city is a small part, very tiny part. This is the old city, and we'll have more maps of this. A small area that has, and the thing that makes this old city and why things are so contested in the Mideast is you have the Western Wall right here, which is the edge of the only remaining part of the Second Temple. It's the holiest site in Judaism. 500 yards away is the Dome of the Rock, the third holiest site for Muslims. It's where Muhammad is said to have ascended to the heavens on the back of his stallion, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque is right there too. This area is called the Temple Mount. It's up a little higher. And right there is Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Christ was crucified. So you have the most holiest sites of these religions, all within several hundred yards of each other. Christian, Muslim, Jewish. And so you could see when conflict erupts. This is a very heavily contested area. Even though this is part of Israel proper, to go up onto the Temple Mount, Jews are allowed up there. You can go up there, but they are not allowed by law to pray up there. And the reason not to pray is because it incites riots all the time from the Muslim quarter. So basically, whenever the Israelis want to provoke a situation, they will get a group and go up there and start praying and whatnot. By the way, the Dome of the Rock is also where Adam is said to have, God is said to have created Adam. So it's a very interesting area when you stand there and realize the seat of these three religions are in such close proximity. And here, this is it. Here we were, that was the Western Wall, Dome of the Rock, Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And you could see, in terms of just Jewish area, no, the old city has a Muslim quarter. When you're in there, you think you're in the middle of, there is nothing Jewish about that too. It is all Muslim. The Christian quarter, it's all Christian. Armenian quarter, and the Jewish quarter is a small one. There are 7 gates to get into the city because it is a walled city. The Dung Gate, Zion, Jaffa is where most tourist things come through. The New Gate, Damascus Gate, Herod's Gate, and the Lion Gate as well, too. So the city of Jerusalem is a big thing way out here, but the old city it's like stepping back in time as well. Chris, do we have a AA battery? Oh, we're kind of, there we go. The pointer is kind of fading. We'll switch it out real quickly. This is live, no, AAA. I'm not sure if it's Greek Orthodox. There's a lot of Greek Orthodox there, and I'm not positive, but their own quarter. This goes back millennia to, way, way, way back. When we get to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, we'll get into that. But yeah, this was back from before my time as well. This was the. But again, this is peaceful, and this is actually when conflicts break out generally in the Mideast. It is not. Let's see. They're Orthodox Catholic. Okay. Let's see now our pointer. Chris, were these the expensive batteries? Let me see if I have it incorrectly here. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. This is what happens when you have the backup speaker here. Chris, you take a look at this and I will change this manually then. Okay, when we get to the wall, the Western Wall, again, is the only remaining part of the Second Temple, which was the holiest site in Judaism. So that was all destroyed by the Romans back in the early 70s. Again, not 1970s, but 70s, 70 AD, too. So being the holiest site, all Jews go to pray there, and you'll see a lot. Is this working now? Yeah, there it is. So they'll pray there, and you'll see them put notes in the wall. And the tradition is that God will read those notes. And so people come when the Pope visits, when the presidents visit, they write a little note and stick it in the wall. And the people that run the site, the Orthodox rabbis, clean that out each night, and I guess deliver them. So, you'll see the soldiers come to the wall before going off. And it's interesting, another thing, when you notice the little things in the Holy Land, it's very, very interesting. Notice the rifles. You could tell, and I've been there multiple times, you could tell the level of conflict and how, whether it's a peaceful time or a high stress time, by whether their magazines are in. See, there's no magazine in this gun. So the magazine is in his belt. At other times of really high, when the rockets are hitting and things like that, or sometimes during the Intifada, you will see them all with the magazines in and set to go. So most of the time you'll see that. It's interesting to see. The Dome of the Rock, where Muhammad ascended, is very interesting. This wall was all kind of like fake. I don't know what it was before, but there was a big Palestinian problem with the Jordanians, and King Hussein wanted to increase his standing with the Palestinians. And so what he did is he funded himself out of his personal funds to change this whole dome here to solid gold. And that is solid gold up there, which is very, very impressive. So it's an impressive structure and very easily recognizable. And again, just a few feet or a few yards from the Western Wall. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, again, photographically very interesting. These are the doors of the entrance of the church. There are keepers of there are multiple keys to get in. The keys to get in, a family since, I think, 1000 AD or something, one family has been the keeper of the keys. But there's another family that is the user of the keys. They get the key from the keeper, and this is a very sacred tradition. Now, this is a Christian area. So, who lives in there? There are multiple sects. Usually when there is a riot or thing in Jerusalem, it is not in the Orthodox Jewish sect, it is in the church. Because in the church, the Roman Catholics, they have the biggest area on the bottom floor by the crucifix there, too. The Greek Orthodox have a section. The Armenians have a section. The Apostolics have a section, the Coptics have a section, the Syrians have a section, and the poor Ethiopian Orthodox have a little room at the top floor, the farthest away. And so competition for these is intense. And when they have services on the main floor, which I think are the Roman Catholics and I think the Greek Orthodox, there is a line down the middle. And if you go over that line, if you're a procession or whatnot, there is trouble and big trouble. So it's very, very interesting. It's very highly political and religious in there too. So it's a fascinating place to visit. Again, outside the main doors to the church, one of the most recognizable structures in Jerusalem is the Tower of David, which everyone assumes David's is a religious structure. It's not. It was a mosque. You could see the mosque on top. It's an old mosque, which is now, they have functions in this, and the ramparts, which is the outer wall of the city, is here too. But that structure by the Joppa Gate is easily recognizable anywhere in the old city, and you get lost frequently there because it's all mazes, like the Fez in Morocco, and you get totally lost. But if you see the Tower of David, you could kind of steer yourself to that. Again, if you know the culture, it's very interesting to walk around. In Jerusalem, and I'm by the Joppa Gate area, you'll see a lot of the Orthodox, and you could know them by their hats. And you'll see lots of different hats. These flat hats, which are fur, and I think made of fox or something, I forget what else too, but they are peculiar to one particular sect of Orthodox Jews. And you'll see others with other distinctive hats. Wearing a hat is just respected in Jewish religion, respect to God. Yeah. Photography is photography allowed in all of these areas. Certain people, like the Amish, the Orthodox, do not like themselves photographed, but that is more of the get out of my face kind of thing, not a religious thing or anything else. So you have to be pretty stealthy and whatnot and things too, which you are. That's why I use my 200 and things like that as well. Military areas, absolutely not. I mean, people try to get away with it. It is not a smart thing to do there as well. So you have to know where you can, but otherwise everything else is fine. If you go into a church, they usually have, if they don't want pictures, they have a sign, no photography. And you always respect that too. But almost everything in Jerusalem, did not see any of those signs as well. So yes, photography is usually no problem at all. So you'll recognize in a lot of these pictures the different hats. And you see sometimes the contrast. You'll see old mosques in the old city, and in the background, outside the walls, you'll see a modern hotel. This was during Easter on the Via Dolorosa, which starts at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and around the 12 stations of the cross. And people will come from all over the world to carry the cross through the 12 stations. And it's a really moving experience if you're there at Easter time to actually see this. here in the Armenian section. I think these are some of the Greek Orthodox as well. So as you wander the old city, as you step from one of these little quarters to another, it's a completely change in everything as well. So very, very interesting. Different kind of hat, different sect of Orthodox Jew. And the payas, it's respect for God that the Orthodox grow their hair long at the side. You'll see that as well. Politics, when you get into, which involves photographs too. Israel, again, center of the Mideast, is bordered. Here we go. Distances. This is key. When I was there, and I had a car, some of the times I was there and drove around, and it's amazing. It's, first of all, the whole state, the whole country of Israel is the size of New Jersey. Not quite as big, though. From Gaza to Tel Aviv is 38 miles. The narrowest width of the country is 9 miles. When you're at that 9 miles, I'll show you a picture of that. The width of the Sea of Galilee at Tiberias, which was the Syrian border on the other side, is 5 miles. So if you have Israel, there is the Gaza Strip there. It is only 38 miles, which is just an easy car ride right up to Tel Aviv. Much closer, about 25 miles to Jerusalem. In the middle, when I was driving up there, and there was a little hill, not a tiny one, and I climbed up to the top of it in one of the towns that I was driving through. And from there, you could easily see, it's like it was right there, the Mediterranean, and you look at the other side, you're looking at Jordan. You could see the things going on in Jordan. So you realize this is right, everything is on top of everything. And if you look off in the distance, you can see Lebanon. Sea of Galilee, 5 miles across, which in the past was hostile border. Here is the Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Gaza. So we have what Israel took in the 67 war. This used to be Jordan here. And so everything up to the Jordan River, which is right here, they took. And so this is now the West Bank, which had divided up into areas, usually ABC it's called. One of them is administered by the Palestinians, and Israelis are not allowed in. The other has Palestinians, but is administered security by the Palestinian Authority with help from the Israelis. And I think it's Area C. One of the other areas is security is provided by the Israelis. This is the way it used to be. Now it's all a blur. It's just out of control too. But that is still what you'll technically hear there. So there is Gaza. This is the strip here. And you could see one of the problems politically when you talk about a two-state solution is the West Bank is physically separated from Gaza. So basically, any solution is going to have to find a way to have passage between those two. So that is difficult in itself. So up here, your question about the Golan Heights. Here is Israel here. Here is the border with Lebanon. Here is what used to be Syria. And so these heights now were taken by Israel, and this is the Golan Heights here. Israel used to just go up and around that little area. This was all Syria. So now this is the Golan Heights. 1967. So the 67 war is when they took the Golan Heights. Yeah. Yeah. When you were there 30 years, no, that was not part of occupied. In 67, Israel took that, and that became Israeli or occupied, and it's been that way since. There is no Syria there. Now, this is the Druze. When we'll talk about the Druze, they live up in this area too. But this is since 67, this has all been border, and we'll show this too, with a UN presence right here in a little demilitarized zone run by the UN. But this has been under Israeli control since 67, so about 60 years. So there was no... No, it was always contested, but it was always Syria contested it, but it had its own problems. So it always said, yeah, this is our territory. Because that's the question. Occupation is technically not legal. So that's why on maps and things, this is all listed as contested. Not, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Maybe, again, like I said,
Who describe how? That's interesting you say. Is the language of who owns what and whatnot depends on who you're talking to, and that makes it very interesting. Again, you look on any maps of the world. This is listed. A lot of map makers won't put that as part of Israel because basically it's legally not. It's occupied. It's put as contested and whatnot. So,
what part
yeah.
of Syria?
Yeah, there was Syria. Syria owned, that was Syrian territory there. Yeah, that was actual Syria. Yeah, so no, that is Syria, and Israel took that, and so that has been part of Israel, or it's been occupied since that time as well. So there is Syria there, Lebanon there. The plains a lot. Yes, and we'll show that too. The heights, it's called, because that was the high ground. And Israel had this little piece here, which was low ground as well. The plains of Galilee as well, and Jordan there. But you'll notice, I spent times up in Metula and Kiryat Shimona. They are right on the Lebanese border. From these towns, literally, you could see mortar emplacements in Syria. And they are regularly fired upon there too. So you're talking about living on top of these things. When I was in Tiberias living there, there were several air raid things. When the missiles went off, we would have to go to air raid shelters, that northern part here as well too. Here we are in Jerusalem again, in the corridors by the Jaffa Gate. By building code, all areas or all structures in the Golan Heights have to have terrorist shelters, not bomb shelters, terrorist shelters. It has to have the terrorist door, which is here. All the electrical supply and controls are down in thing. Windows to get out quickly if you have to. The windows are protected by armor, and you can see they can be swung open if you have to get out quickly. There are ladders. So every house has this, every place there, and it's normal. It's funny because you're there, you're looking at that, and you think this is really just strange. But it's not to people who've lived there for 30 years or so, 40. It's just part of normal life. Here is from I want to take this picture. This is from the Golan Heights, the edge. That's the Sea of Galilee. That's where the Christ gave the Sermon on the Mount there as well. Tiberias is over here. But this was that little strip that was Israeli territory before the 67 war. And that was all farming. And here, this was Syria where I'm standing. So you could see it's a cliff, literally, and they would just have mortar emplacements and just lob it down. And basically, the tractors would just drive in zigzags and have the armor on top, and it was just a way of life. But that's eventually that was one of the problems there. The Golan Heights was the high ground, and that was a big piece of farming land there as well. The wall after the Second Intifada. To keep out terrorists and the suicide bombers, Israel built the wall. Before it was popular here, this is very controversial. This wall is big. You have to go to here, in order to go to the West Bank, you have to go through all these security checkpoints. It's like the old Berlin Wall. This is the Palestinian side with all the graffiti. And this is the Israeli side as well. It stopped, it basically brought to zero the suicide bombings and whatnot. However, it is a huge impediment. It is a huge restriction on the Palestinians in terms of freedom of movement. And it's a real problem. Again, these are the real day-to-day problems. The Palestinians are, you might say technically they have rights and this, that, but in reality, movements and things are highly restricted too. So this is a big problem. I was lucky enough, we went with one group and we went to, with some of the people in the defense community there, and we were taken around and we were able to speak to groups of Palestinians in the West Bank on our own and whatnot, and go to some of the military bases. And again, you get in honest discussions, you really, when you sit down with people who are involved in this day to day on the other side, it is a really eye opener. You realize this is not straightforward. These are some of the Bedouins. Bedouins in the southern part of Israel, they live in tents by choice a lot of times, and they live just kind of the old way. They are Muslims. And this is one of my older pictures. Again, you see just you have the regular military. That's the Western Wall. So that's people praying down there. And just ordinary kids are carrying, these are people who had been in the military, and afterwards you are encouraged to keep your weapon. Kids on their way to their kids, sometimes their older brother, or they'll hire someone to take them to school during times that were higher terrorist times as well. So you'll see a lot of school kids being accompanied by armed bigger kids there as well. And this is also in the area of the old city by the Western Wall. This was just from up in the Golan Heights. I'm up in the heights here. This is the down low that used to be the lower portion. And this is just the sun setting. My bad attempt at HDR in those old days as well, of the sun setting over Tiberias and the plains of Galilee. As you drive up through the Golan Heights, it's like stepping back in time. These are old Syrian gun emplacements up in the Golan Heights that are still pockmarked with shells from the war. And these aren't sites or anything, too. This is just because it's there. I mean, the place is still heavily mined in a lot of places, only because no one knows where the mines are. So if you're going to spend time demining, you do it in the places that you're going to build and whatnot, but the rest is just left as minefields. So you'll see a lot of this as you go around. This is one of the main routes through there, and I used to always pull off and get shots of these. This old mosque, which is pockmarked with bullet holes as well, up and down there. You do not want to, one of the things that is dangerous there, even if it's not labeled, your impulse, there's no one up there at all. You're alone. You want to go out and photograph all around. It is in the Golan Heights, that is not a smart thing to do. There are, again, a lot of mined areas, and you just don't know where they are. So this is not a place that you'd want to be wandering off the main road. You will see tanks. Again, this is not a viewpoint or site or anything, too. From the wars, from the 72 war, which was a tank war, you'll see a lot of tanks just out there in the fields, just on the side of the road that were just left there. Old Syrian tanks just sitting there. This is up by the Syrian border. That is Kenitra, one of the Syrian villages there was heavy fighting for during the war. So that is Syria. I'm standing on the Israeli side. This is UN here. So that's one border as well. So on one of our trips, again, we were with some of the defense people. So we were lucky enough to get down into the UN site, and we'll see that. Here you can see some of the areas you'll see. You should know the sign for mines is the triangle, because most of the time you will not see a sign, and you'll just see a tiny triangle upside down that's rusted out, sitting on a little post with no fence around it. So it's important to know what that is. But again, up in the Golan Heights, it's fairly common. Up in the northern Golan Heights, where the Druze live, I had lunch with them and a long discussion. What's very interesting is they live here, and this is the Syrian border. That is heavily mined, heavily patrolled. But the Druze, most of their relatives and things live on this side as well. I mean, the war didn't differentiate. I mean, before the war, they just went back and forth and saw their relatives. After the war, this thing was divided. And so you have a hill up here, which is called the Hollering Hill, that their relatives, they would agree. They'd call them up and say, hey, 3 o'clock, not FaceTime, 3 o'clock up on the hill. And their relatives would get up on this side, and they'd be on this side, and they'd yell back and forth and talk that way. But that's a common thing. And the Druze are very interesting. They're big, and they have apple orchards and whatnot, and they're very non-political. You ask them, what do you think of the Israelis? Oh, we love the Israelis, we put their flag up and things too. Well, what do you think of the Syrians? When the Syrians are here, we love the Syrians. We put their flag, anyone who comes, as long as they leave us alone, they said basically, which they do, they are left alone, then they really don't care. They don't involve themselves in politics, and they just go on and they're left alone. They're allowed to trade apples across. They're allowed a lot more free movement with their goods over to the other side. So it's a very interesting kind of accommodation. Yeah. What language do the Druze speak? I am not positive in that. I can tell you they spoke English to me, fortunately, or else I would. But as to what their native language is, I am not certain whether it's an Arabic form or the other. Yeah. Yes. Why did they occupy that land? I think they've been there for thousands of years. That was their ancient thing, and that's where they grew apples. And so they've been there kind of before all this other thing too. They took over as a security. They were attacked in '67 from the Golan Heights too. So when the fighting came and they were attacked from the Syria, at the end of the war when they fought them back, they kept that high ground. So it was purely as a defensive thing. Yeah, Belinda. Yeah. Do they have full voting rights? Yes. All the Palestinians, Bedouins, Druze, they are all Israeli citizens, and their rights are no different, and they have full voting rights. Oh, how do they feel about the Jews that don't have to be conscripted? Yeah, because actually, the Druze actually are in the military, right? They all have to. The Druze are, but the Orthodox Jews, which is like a nation unto itself, they got the law changed a long time ago to not be able to serve in the military because the serving of God in the yeshiva and whatnot was just as important as serving, in defense. And that was a few years ago. It's always being challenged. It's a politically very hot potato, and I think they do now have to serve. But it's going back and forth at this time. So they serve, but it is a point of contention in terms of how that is written. That is so yeah, that is an ongoing thing of what they do. So very interesting photographically. Now I went back then. Yeah, another question. The Druze and the apples. Yes. Oh, what point of the border to Syria are they using to send over their apples? They're actually border crossings there. They're not real border crossings like, because this is a hostile border, but they're things that are very heavily controlled, and that's where those are allowed. Things like the Allenby crossings, which are the borders, which are not that, I'll talk about that whole other experience. When you go into Jordan, the Allenby crossing and those kind of borders that are going into non-hostile territory like Jordan or whatnot are heavily militarized, but that's where everyone crosses. There is no regular crossing over here except for certain zones where they will allow certain Druze and whatnot to go across and do the trading with the apples. But regular people, there is no crossing for anyone else as well over that area. Yeah.
Replaced by the bill.
Yeah.
So when they go back to the Ramallah,
Yeah.
I know of recent times going pretty much to Jordan and then came to the Allenby Gate.
Yeah.
I think it was less hassle perhaps.
Yeah.
There than going to like Tel Aviv or
Oh yeah, well, we'll go through, crossing the border into Jordan, because that's an interesting experience in itself. But again, I was lucky enough to go back a few years ago. So again, this is Jerusalem. And again, Jerusalem, you see, is a big area. The Israeli Museum there, Mount Herzl and whatnot. And here's the old city here. So the old city, old city is up here. So the old city is really just a tiny portion in the whole city of Jerusalem. Oh yeah, that's the old city up there. And again, as we talked before, it's the old, when you go in the Jaffa Gate, you walk down through the Armenian quarter. If you want to get to the Western Wall, into the Jewish quarter, up there is that. What's very interesting is if you have a heart attack anywhere in here, these roads are real tiny, and an ambulance can't fit in any of these things too. So the Orthodox who live in here and whatnot, I asked them about he lifts up his thing there and he's got 8 beepers and whatnot too. They all know CPR. They have these John Deere with a little tractor thing, and it's a rescue squad. What they do is they get all the vital signs. They get the person to the gate where the regular rescue squad takes over. Nothing to do with religion. It's just that the rescue squad can't fit. And then when I asked the question, because I am so smart, and I asked the question about the religious thing, but what if a person has a heart attack on the Sabbath when you're not supposed to? Well, stupid of me, because I'm asking this question like I'm so smart. I'm asking it to a rabbi in the Jewish quarter in the old city, a guy who's wearing more black and everything that I can. And he says, son, that's a stupid question, but obviously this is to save a life is more important, so you get a dispensation. But, he said, when you get them to the gate, they want to know things like the vital signs and whatnot. And you can't, that's not an emergency anymore. You can't write the vital signs for them. So instead we have, and he opens a little thing, punch cards, where we go, and it has all the blood pressure things on it too, and they punch out with like a paper clip the things there too. And I'm thinking, okay, I've read the Bible, and it says you shouldn't work on the Sabbath, you shouldn't write, but paperclip punching is okay, But I figured I wasn't going to win this argument. When you're here, you don't win these arguments too. So I said, very interesting and whatnot too. So sorry for the. As you walk through, this was recently, so this was 3 years ago. Again, these are not soldiers; these are police. The police all have long guns there as well. Again, in the Christian section, you'll see just every kind of religion in the old city. It's just inside the Jaffa Gate. Again, I don't know what group he was part of, but a lot of interesting things. By the way, everything in here, almost down to these little buttons and things on the side too. Forget about prices. Everything is bargaining. If you don't know how to bargain, you shouldn't be in the old city. Everything is bargaining there as well, mostly. Again, a lot of interesting things. This is the Tower of David, Orthodox transportation, one of the shopkeepers. I just like people. One of the very interesting guys, just kind of sitting up there on the ramparts this is the Tower of David there too, just kind of FaceTiming or whatever there as well. Some schoolgirls on their way. Notice a different hat too. Many different kinds of hats for the different sects there as well. I am up. This is the Tower of David. The Jaffa Gate is there. This is the main road in. And you'll notice there are people as well as cars. There are roads, little roads that go through that you could drive a small car through, but most of it is just narrow walking things that you walk from one part of the city to the other. 3 people shopping, 2 are going to make it through the day, 1 isn't. Just kind of, that's it there as well. Always looking for the interesting. That's the city of Jerusalem out there. This is you come in through the Jaffa Gate, which is where most people will enter the city. That's just the Tower of David again. Interesting, on the side of one of the gates, that is a mezuzah. A mezuzah in the Jewish religion is placed on the wall, on the side of a door, usually the right side of the door in the upper third. And the mezuzah is not this structure, it's what's inside. Inside are the holiest, usually the 3 holiest prayers in the Jewish religion are written out, wrapped up, put inside of this, and put on the wall. This one on the side of the wall into one of the, I think the Lion's Gate, is an artillery shell from the 48 war. So this is a mezuzah actually made out of an old artillery shell. So just reminders wherever you go of the history and the politics of the city. Oh, this is just a duplicate inside the gate. You could buy anything. You even have to bargain for your corn too. Again, these are policemen. They mean business. Again, I showed that one already. Tower of David. Again, different hats. The regular, the kippurs that you hear, those are just the classic little black things that Jewish people keep on their heads when they're observant or they go into the temple as just a way to cover your head as a sign of respect. That's just one of the old mosques you will find in the Muslim quarter. Out in the city of Jerusalem, this is very solemn. Not a lot of pictures here. This is Yad Vashem, the Museum of the Holocaust. It is very moving. This sculpture is to commemorate the kids that died, the children that died in the Holocaust. And they're meant to be all children just standing there as gravestones. A very solemn place. What is interesting is when you go into Yad Vashem, the exhibits are all in date order. So it goes through the beginning, all the middle of the Holocaust, the railway cars, everything too. But the last exhibit there is this, which is an empty thing. It's just a window, because this is looking out over the plains of Israel, which was really in the Holocaust. This is what the whole thing led to, is their own state. So they actually have this. This is what the last station inside the museum is, looking out that view. This is interesting. I am now up in the Golan Heights. I am north of the Sea of Galilee, and this is the Jordan River. People think of it as a big thing. No, it's a little stream that comes down there like that. You could just walk down. There's nothing around. These are the plains of Galilee, and you sit there, and I just brought a sandwich, and you sit there and you realize all the things that happened thousands of years ago, the religion, whatnot. Most of the Bible is written about things that happen up in this area. And it's really moving because there's nothing modern here. There's no buildings, whatnot. This is as it was. And again, you could just walk across this stream. So that's the Jordan River, which again gets very political because the tributaries here were in Lebanon and Syria, which used to dam them up during times of tension, and then no water gets into the Sea of Galilee, which is where Israel gets all of its water. This is up. I am now standing the sermon where Jesus gave the Sermon of the Mount. So you could see the little villages. Tiberias is down there. We're looking south, but basically a lot of this looks kind of just unchanged, the hills and whatnot. So we're at the northern part of the sea. This is where Jesus gave his sermon, somewhere in around here, looking out over the sea. So it's a very moving experience when you realize the history involved. This is the Jordan River, a little larger as it comes out of the Sea of Galilee in the south, because it's coming out of the Sea of Galilee there. Then it gets smaller and smaller as it gets towards the Dead Sea. But again, a lot of the baptisms are done up in this area, a lot of baptismal stations. You'll come across in the hillside just ancient Jewish tombstones. The Garden of Gethsemane is very, very interesting. You go there and you realize you will see a ton of olive trees in the Jordan, in the Golan Heights. Now, olive tree is the symbol of the Jordan Heights, and the reason is the olive tree is just very accustomed to that climate. The roots are deep. It's a very hardy tree, and that's why it is. This olive tree here was probably here when Jesus was here and taken. And the reason they know that is a few years ago, they carbon dated it. And what's interesting is they did a carbon thing all the way through, and the earliest bark thing was about, I think, 500 AD. But the center of the tree is eaten out. So it is eaten out a fair amount. So you can't count rings from that part that's eaten out. So in counting the rings back up to 50, whatever it was, 100 AD or something too, they saw the amount they had left still, figured how many rings would be there, and it takes it back to the time of Christ, which means there was an excellent chance tree like that was there at the time. And I'm telling you, when you are there, that it now just sounds like a fact, but when you're sitting there and it's a very, again, movie experience. Yeah. That's Hebrew. Hebrew is written from right to left. So yeah, they read it that way. And you will see sometimes dots underneath. That's called the vowels, like that little dot. Without it, it's without the vowels. But yeah, that's Hebrew. So yeah, Garden of Gethsemane is very interesting, especially when you realize the ancientness of some of these things as well. This is very interesting. You go over, you cross through. You have to change guides. Your guide in Jerusalem cannot take you over to Bethlehem. too, because you have to have a Palestinian guide as well, which I agree with. That's good. It's good for the economy and things as well. So you switch off. You go over to Bethlehem. It's very interesting because you go to the Church of the Nativity where Jesus was born. It's very interesting because you imagine if that was in New York City or whatnot, it would be a big giant thing with multiple stairways. Here, it is a little church. And to get down to the basement, the nativity site is in the basement. To get down there is a single wooden stairway that's real narrow. This is it. That's the only entrance down. So everyone is coming down to be at that site, which is the site of his birth. And I think that was that this last one, I think this was put there in the 1700s or whatnot. But I think the marble is more ancient than that. But that is the actual site that pilgrims go to see. And again, really, when you realize the history and religion and everything, again, it's very, very interesting. In the city of Jerusalem, too, is the tomb of David, which is another holy site for Jews, and Jews will come from all over. These are a lot of, you can see the dark skin. Some of these are Ethiopian Jews. One of the tribes of Israel settled in Ethiopia, and so they have a big presence here, who just sit there all day and just study the Talmud there in the holy sites. The colors there photographically are very interesting. Blue is like the national color as well. So you will see this blue kind of all over, and the old stones from this is in the old city, the ancient city. And so the Orthodox just walking up like that. Again, little tiny, just narrow corridors. And that's what some of these areas are like. When you get into, this is just part of Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv and parts of Jerusalem are almost all supplied by solar energy in terms of their water. Every house has this on top. It is solar heated, and that's their hot water tank as well. So it's amazing. In Safad, which is up by Tiberias in the northern part, this is City Hall, and those are all artillery holes from the the 48 war, which they decided not to repair, just as a reminder throughout. And all the many times that I visited Safat and whatnot throughout the decades, you're right, that is just unchanged. The building is like that. So these memories, all over the country as you travel. And this was in Safat, one of the rabbis of the temple there. Safat is referred to as the mystical city. It's home of the Kabbalah, which is, as you know, Madonna. He's big into that. And again, he is just writing prayers there. And we got down. This was very, very interesting. The defense establishment that we were with took us down to the actual Syrian border inside the UN post. That's a pretty scary area there, too. Even though there's no active conflict there as well. You have you have the telescopes, you have infrared, you have the UN observation post and the UN with the blue helmet. They are there, and they are constantly watching the border. Yeah. Well, infiltrate's a bad word. That's I would not infiltrate anything. Oh, when I went in 23, it was with a peace group, in a sense, that had connections to the former military there as well. So we were accompanied by military and others, and that's how we were able to speak to Palestinian groups and others, and we got access to parts of the West Bank. And this is not, you would not be able to normally go here. Right, you would not go here. Yeah, we had connections this time, but it was fascinating. But the scariest part was, this was, I got down up close to the border. This is the border. Again, this is Israel, that's Syria. This was a hostile border. And I'm there taking this picture because I wanted to get the Syrian flag overlapping the Israeli flag and whatnot. And I've got my 200 millimeter lens, and I'm photographing with my Z7 II. And the intelligence person that was with me from the distance thing. And, this is someone pretty senior in intelligence. is standing next to me and looking at this, and she goes, "Oh, that's a pretty impressive lens." And I go, "Oh, thank you." It goes, "What are you trying to get?" And I said, "I'm trying to get these two flags together overlap." She said, "Oh, yeah, good picture. Yeah, here's my card. Could you send this to me?" I'm thinking, you're military intelligence. I mean, if you need me from the Cleveland Photographic Society to send you a picture of this, then I kind of have worries too. What was interesting is she gave me her card, and it's defense thing and whatnot too. We were traveling afterwards to Jordan, and I made the decision. I was so paranoid, I threw the card away. I didn't want to be in Jordan somewhere and get stopped and whatnot and go through my wallet and there's a thing from the, so yeah, I get very, very conservative when I'm over there. But again, this is a very interesting, it's a sobering thing. That's a border. And when you have signs, you see borders, other places where they go, do not cross, or you could get hurt if you're, in this border. But when you see signs saying, what was it? It's mortal danger, military zone, you endanger your life if you walk here. I mean, these signs, the language is kind of, I understand that. That's the other, but that's, the border there. This is truly a hostile border. There are the observation posts there as well. So this is the UN area. You see this frequently up in the plains of Galilee. In the plains of Galilee. And it kind of looks like dominoes there. You don't know what those are. Huh? Bees? Yeah. No, they almost like little hives, but no, you see the size of the bus, that they're bigger than that as well. Those are artificial training cities for the Israeli Defense Force for urban combat. In other words, these are artificial buildings. So that way they learn to go through, sweep buildings, whatnot, plant things. Yeah, Mick. What country are they? It's not a I am not sure what they are. It's a good question, but I am not sure where the UN gets them from, what countries they represent. So that I'm not sure. So you will see a lot of these things. They're just nondescript around, but that's where the training is for urban warfare. When you're up in the Golan Heights, it's really interesting. This is the plains of Galilee here. This is the Lebanese border. This is a hostile border. There are right up, I think in this area and whatnot, there are mortar emplacements as well. A lot of the incursions you hear about, the Israeli tanks go through here. This border is hostile. That ground you see there, it's very interesting. They use a low-tech thing. Not only is the area mined on that side as well, but in the sand area too, what they'll do is drag a tractor with a rake in back of it. And the rake just makes rake lines like that, which is very, very hard if you're an infiltrator to come through. They have trackers that go through once or twice a day, Israeli trackers, and look for that. Because you think if you step on a thing, sand that has a whole bunch of rake marks, it's very hard to recreate all those little rake marks too. So it's low tech and they can just go through and look at it. It's just one more thing as well. But again, this has been in recent combat, this has been an area where the tanks have gone through multiple times as well. So I'm standing at what used to be Syria. This is Lebanon right there, and that's the border. So again, it brings a lot of these things to light that you see in the paper. This is a young girl. I just like this picture. It scored pretty low in competition, but that's another story. She's just up there looking over the Sea of Galilee. This is from the northern part, and you could see just how it looks like the old days as well. Again, Sea of Galilee down there. This is the Ben Yehuda market in Jerusalem proper, which is interesting because you go from the old city and the religion, you get down to the Ben Yehuda market, which is just teeming with people and stores and whatnot. You could buy kind of anything there and people just go to relax, and it's really just a fun place. So there's this contrast there. And you will see just normal people, not soldiers or anything. You'll just bump up against, I'm trying to get in line or I'm bumping up against someone. And this is not uncommon. After a while, it just becomes second nature. You don't even think about it. But still, you just don't see that in South Park Mall, hopefully, as well. But again, a very pleasant place, a lot of interesting photographically, very interesting. High ISO place there. Ah, yes. You can find Trump Kippurs there as well. If anything at the Ben Yehuda market, but for all the, yes, so here were some, the more embroidered kippurs, the thing. Here's Make America Great Again, and a President Trump one to wear as well, too. So truly, you could get anything at the Ben Yehuda market. This is in the Mount of Olives. This is one of the most, the Mount of Olives, one of the most religious ceremonies, cemeteries in the world. Most Jews would like to be buried there. And you could see the amount of olive trees, just again, all over this part of Israel, again, because they are a very hardy tree. And these are all tombs. You could see I'm in the Mount of Olives now, standing there. Here's the ramparts of the old, around the old city. This is the Temple Mount. You could see the Dome of the Rock there, and Al-Aqsa Mosque would be over here. The Western Wall is on the other side. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is right around in there. And so the ramparts go all the way around, and that's the city of Jerusalem just in the background like that. Trouble. Fortunately, if you know the politics as well, I was covering the Gay Pride Parade while it was in Jerusalem, and I said, oh, I know that guy. And so I got some shots off as well. This is one of the problems over there, too. This is Itamar Ben-Gvir, Minister of Defense, Minister of the Interior. He is the most right-wing of right-wing one. He is the one encouraging all the settlement things, just, riot, build settlements and whatnot, too, which unfortunately, they need him in the cabinet in order to keep the party in power or whatnot, too. It's a whole political thing. But his appearance today was solely to antagonize at the Gay Pride Parade. Because where he goes, trouble goes, and demonstrators come as well. I recognize him there, and that is him. He's Israeli. He's Israeli, but very, very right wing. You have all factions. You have a peace faction, a left faction, whatnot, but they're a coalition government. So to stay in power, if you don't have enough of your own party, you have to have some of these others, and you have to keep them happy, or you don't have a majority. So you get into this crazy situation too. But I managed to get his shot. Yeah. Oh yeah, people in their neighborhoods, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh no, that's not, no. Yeah. Well, the coalition is strange there because he is not Orthodox, but the Orthodox follow him because he is right wing and wants to make everything part of Israel, which is what a lot of the Orthodox want. So it's a strange coalition. But you brought up about it's all over. But you brought up about the strictness of the Orthodox and whatnot. I had a long time ago, I worked at Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem, and as a place to stay, they had me stay at their house. They have a house in what's called the Mea Shearim section of Jerusalem, which is the Orthodox section. That is a trip, let me tell you. The Orthodox section is, I remember on the Sabbath, where you're not supposed to do anything, I'd wake up, I'd see the Orthodox stoning cars they come through with big rocks. And what the hell is going on? They explain because they're driving on the Sabbath. They stone their cars. Even today, the police on the Sabbath will block off the entrances to the Mea Shearim section in Jerusalem. Nothing to do with the Orthodox going out or driving. It's to keep tourists from accidentally driving in and getting their car throwing rocks at and whatnot. So it is in that Mea Shearim section. Yeah, that's law there too. But the rest of it, the Gay Pride Parade, in Jerusalem, where I attended it and covered it here, is not Jerusalem, the big demonstrations against it. Jerusalem's very hostile, very religious. Completely different in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv's like New York City. They had a giant parade. There are no demonstrators there. It's a big festival and whatnot. So Jerusalem is a different city, just religiously and conservative, than Tel Aviv, which is like a modern city. So it's interesting to see this contrast. As you walk through the old city, again, very narrow corridors on top. You can get lost real easily. This is in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This is to go in to see the site where Jesus was crucified. Again, this is actually the site of the crucifixion. People are praying. You'll see people from all walks of life there. Again, very moving thing. This is just an overview to see. Here I'm standing up, and I wanted to just give you an overview. This is what the area looks like. This is the Western Wall here. Women are segregated. Women are on this side, men are on that side. There's been a big Sarah Silverman sister is part of a Women at the Wall thing, trying to get that change. This is a lot of politics and religion and whatnot, and Orthodox religion, and it's all tied up in that. But basically, this is the Western Wall, the last part remaining. The second temple was on this side, and you could see from here, there's the Dome of the Rock. And up here is what's called the Temple Mount, which is where the temple was, the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa. And here is tightly controlled. If you have a pass to go up, you go up this way up to the Temple Mount. And as a tourist, you can go up there too. You can go up and you could visit the Dome of the Rock as well. But this just shows you the temple area. Again, the religious will spend all day there praying, morning to night. There will be bar mitzvahs there. There'll be all kinds of ceremonies. People bring things to study the Talmud there. You could see where they put the notes in the wall. People from all over come. Those are some of the notes in there that you see. Pray. A lot of military in this area. This is a very high value target area. You'll see them coming through all the time. You see how many women they have too and see that's what it looks like when the magazine is in the gun as well. Too. But a lot of this, and this is just background. Nothing was going on here. It's just normal patrols around. And again, after a while, no one else is looking either. It just becomes background too. So you're not really, it's just a way of life there. So as we leave England, we leave England and we leave Israel too. We cross over into Jordan, which is an interesting crossing. Now, Jordan has had a peace treaty with Israel. The border, though, is still, since a lot of, it's still not an open border. So to go across things like the Allenby crossing is very interesting. The border with Jordan is the Jordan River. So to go across the border, we'll have a map, but you have an Israeli military post on one side, and you go through there with all your papers and whatnot too. Then you have a car or a small minibus drive you across the kind of area, the Jordan River, and you'll see old gun emplacements there from the old wars, just tons of gun emplacements, over to the Jordanian side, which is a whole Jordanian military complex that you go through and have to do your papers and whatnot. And it is pretty, to show you how strict it is, coming back. My wife and I, we were alone, and we got from Jordan back to the Israeli side, and we went through all the papers and whatnot, and our driver then took us out, and the military wouldn't let us out. They went through the thing. Someone had made an error on the forms and listed one passenger instead of two. And that was an immediate thing. It wasn't just there's obviously two, and at Hopkins, out of here too. There, it was, nope, you're not getting out of, go back, whatnot. And it was a big deal. It took us about 2 hours to get that corrected and get that changed in order to get out too. So they take it very seriously there. But yes. No, this was this was after that. We decided on our own to go over into Jordan as well. And in Jordan, they tell you is, even though Jordan, they're at peace with, is basically you should not be wearing any Jewish stars or other religious memorabilia. It is just, it is just not the safest thing there as well. So they don't scare you, but it's just a fact of life that kind of just dress, you know, nondescript in a way. But Jordan is a very, you know, there's a lot of political things going on there as well, but Jordan is just a very normal country. It is very easy to travel through. So its geography, Jordan is bordered here. It's not in the great area either. It's got Syria, a hostile border to the north. It's got Iraq on the other side, Saudi Arabia below it, and Israel on the west. Jordan again. Now, let's see. Oh, okay. So in this, we'll break it up to 4 places. One, here we are on the West Bank. We went over and I'm in the Amman. Amman, Jordan is the capital. Then Middle Jordan, we went there. Petra, which you hear about too, which shows you if there is peace. Petra was really just as a monument. No one went there before 67 because it was a hostile border. So no tours went there. They went to Israel. And so it was totally undeveloped. Once there was a peace treaty between the two, all the tours to Israel, the Holy Land, included that as part of the thing. And it built up. It's a big industry. They make a ton of money there too. So it's good. Peace is good for everybody. And then down in a really interesting place called Wadi Rum. So north to south. So Amman, you will see, because it is less traveled, you will see a lot of the old Roman rooms. If you travel the Mideast, you will see Roman rooms everywhere because the Romans were everywhere as well. Some are in better shape than others. They're in really excellent shape in Jordan. You will see a lot of things of the king. I had decided if I was going to be something in the next life, I want to be a king. The current king is King Hussein, and these are celebrating the wedding of his son. That's the crown prince. King Hussein, that's King Abdullah. This is King Abdullah. His father was King Hussein. So this is King Abdullah, and his picture is everywhere. It's on the money. It's on the Coke bottles. It's on the everything too. It's on the coins. So it's good to be king. Again, these were just, his son was getting married. So basically, as everyone puts up the banners. This is touring some of the sites there too. You'll see a lot of little kids selling water. That's some of the money there too. They will sell a ton of water. Water is fine to drink over there in bottled water. Always check, though, the seal. Not so much in the Mideast, but in other areas, people will just refill the bottles and they'll put the thing back on and just use a little heat thing to kind of do that too. So that's tap water then. So always just take a quick look when you open it. It's original. I have never found one of the others, but it's something to be aware of. You can get right up close to things. Other places you travel, you're far away from the ruins. Here, since it's not really well traveled too, you could go up, sit on the ruins as well. That's the Jordanian flag. This is in a restaurant, you're sitting there, and this is just the Amman. Amman is just a city built on a hill. Very interesting. You'll see the mosques all over. You know you're in a Muslim city. There's mosque here, here. They're all over. And at the times of prayer, the call to prayer several days, you will hear that from wherever you are in the city as well. You see a lot of people dressed differently there. And this is the keffiyeh. The keffiyeh is not it's a general term for the scarf and things that they use. And this scarf that I wore, it is phenomenal. It keeps the heat and the sand off your head and neck, and the sand ticks or whatnot, or sand flies that are there too. So it's very comfortable. And these you see here are just to hold it on your head. Contrary to popular belief, there is no really hierarchy of certain ones are white or whatnot, or certain ones mean different things. They're kind of just different styles and whatnot, but they all serve the same. So the keffiyeh is basically a desert headgear that is very, very functional as well. So it's not a religious thing too. And this is just some of the areas there, interesting people. And you'll see again, you'll see a lot of these keffiyeh. Here's the keffiyeh though, without the little thing holding it. And again, very common in the desert. It would seem like it would be hot, but it's not. And it actually keeps the sun off you and is quite functional. Down towards Middle Jordan. In Middle Jordan, again, the terrain changes. Very rocky, very interesting sites as well. You'll see one of the Christian sites, Mount Nebo. And Mount Nebo, I'll show you a map here, is very, very interesting. And that is where Moses died. And remember, Moses, because of his improprieties, was not allowed to go into the promised land. The tribe of Israel went in, but he had to stay behind. So he was not allowed to cross the Jordan River. So he died up on Mount Nebo. What's interesting on Mount Nebo, you see the view that Moses saw as well. So here we are. This is Jordan there. That's Mount Nebo. That's Israel. Here's the Jordan River. So that's the border. So imagine Moses looking out. Here's the promised land over the River Jordan. So he's looking that way, which is that view. There is the Sea of Galilee, Jordan River, what was then the promised land there. So as you stand there, even though, it is again, a very moving thing when you're there. Photographically, I should have used dehaze. Right, Brian? I'm not there for that. Again, it's very, very interesting to, again, imagine what you're looking at. Again, because there are no skyscraper, you're looking at a similar thing probably to what they saw there. A lot of the Bedouins live there, and they just live in tents. They have their goats and whatnot. You see this all over Middle Jordan, just tents. I don't know if that was, not sure what that was. Again, but a lot of structures like that down below. Again, very, very sparsely populated in the middle of Jordan. Just roads, hardly anyone on, going right through. The Sahara Desert, everyone thinks of as hot, and that has nothing to compare to when you're down in parts of Jordan that we'll get into. There's a lot of handicrafts done there too. A lot of tiles made by hand. Interesting people. Again, inlaid tile being done there. A lot of ceramic painting. So very, very interesting crafts there. Again, you could see the various headgear, again, which is mostly functional rather than religious. But again, you guys arguing over some money. Down in the areas, you see the kids. The kids are interesting. They're dressed kind of Western style. Kafia up here as well, smoking a cigarette. Just interesting photographically. This is where the 200 millimeter comes in. Well, it's always hard because if you're closer, and people look at you, and they look at you, it's not, candid anymore. You want to get that feel. So I try to be, Thank you. It just is, it's very hard to conceal yourself in a desert, though. That's the, just kind of, that's the other thing. I don't look like a camel. So yeah, there's a little kid just peeking out. There are the goats. Goats are kind of ubiquitous there. They just they're somebody's goats. But very excited. He was just there were a lot of caves there. And he was just outside one of the caves. So he was just at that thing lit by the sunlight with the cave in back. So I like that shot. A little woman is selling some wares by a lot of caves. There are a lot of caves here which they used to live in. And what's very interesting is because these caves are cool. It's like air conditioning. And when the Jordanian government, a few decades ago, decided that was the way people should live, and it built them housing and gave it to them for almost nothing. And there was a good proportion of the people that refused to move because they've always lived in the caves. That's what they were comfortable with and whatnot. So a lot of people are still living in these caves by choice. Nothing to do with anything else. A very interesting thing. Then you get down to Petra, which is you've all heard about. Petra is basically a slot canyon, just like Antelope Canyon. On the way there, we transition. You see in the northern part, not many animals up by Amman. Then you start to see the horses and camels. More horses in this middle area because the ground is harder, so they could use horses. Once you get to sand, no horses anymore. Hoofs don't work in sand as well. So you'll see a lot of them here. Great stores in the middle of nowhere. This is the king of scarf and shawd, made in Jordan, right there. That's just sticking up out of the ground. Huh? That's my, yes. King is that's right. If there's an opening, I want in. Again, a lot of horses, and you notice the scarf again over a baseball cap. The scarves are functional as well. And you can see the harder dirt there as well. More keffiyehs there and the horses. So this is around the Petra area. Again, the keffiyehs are sometimes just a wraparound there as well. As you start walking towards Petra, everything is walking. There are no cars here. There's no shuttle service as well. So you walk, and you're walking through a slot canyon in a sense. And as you're walking through, again, high things, only a few yards wide there, and then you get to the opening in the slot canyons, and that's where you start to see the treasury, or parts of Petra too. So you're coming from a slot canyon that you could see, just like Antelope Canyon. And that's where it is. As you get there, you exit the slot canyon, a lot of camels and things too, and people there as well. This was carved by the Romans into the mountain. Very interesting color palette there, because the reds of the stone and the skin blends in with that, and the colors too. So I just found that photographically just interesting. And a lot of kids on the camels there as well. And you'll see everything, every kind of people there at Petra. Again, different kind of headscarf as well. Again, same thing. This is just to hold it on the head. Just very interesting. I just found the people fascinating there. Little kid, you're just kind of waiting in the shade there to give horse rides. You don't want to walk. Burros are used there too, because again, it's hard ground and very steep ground. So the burros are good there as transportation. And you see the burros all over. So as you start to move from north to south in Jordan too, you see a change in the animals, which is interesting. And you start to see the camels here in the mid portion too. Now I took a risk here, and to show you why, the horses, once you get to sand, horses are out because their hooves just sink right into the sand. But camels don't have hooves. They have sponges, and their sponges are designed to walk on the sand. I got close to the camel enough to do I don't know what was going on above me, but I just, and you could see these are like basically sponges. So they rest on top of the sand and don't sink in. And that's how they're able to walk there. This was a quick shot and out. This is one of the women, religious headgear. Very interesting. And then we got down to Wadi Rum. Wadi Rum is from, this is where Lawrence of Arabia did his thing too. And this is hot. Here is Jordan again. Wadi Rum is down here. There is a place here called the Nefu Desert, which makes the Sahara look air-conditioned. And went over, that's Cairo, which was the British headquarters of the Arab Wars, in the Arab Wars. That is Aqaba. That is Wadi Rum, which was the start-off point. That was Lawrence's headquarters, Lawrence of Arabia. And what Lawrence's thing was basically is all the guns at Aqaba were pointed at the Red Sea, and they were non-movable guns. They were pointed at the Red Sea because they couldn't be attacked from behind, because no one was able to cross the Nefu Desert. It was just totally inhabitable. Even the Bedouins had reservations. And he got all the tribes together and said, if we attack from there, the guns are pointed the other way. And so basically, they'll never expect us. So there's Aqaba. There was where they came through the Nefu, assembled here, and did their march from Wadi Rum into Aqaba from the back, and with the band of tribes conquered Aqaba. Aqaba is, you're talking 100, 120, or Death Valley type of things too. You just sweat. You think someone was pouring, like at the end of the football games where they pour the Gatorade on you, you feel water coming down your back and it's dripping from your hair. It is just intolerably hot. You don't need sunscreen though, because it's worthless. I mean, basically, unless you have a covering, 60 sunscreen, right through that as well. But it's an interesting thing, and the movie was shot down here as well. And you could see these big overlooks, just hostile territory, hostile environmentally, not politically. And you could see people just walk. There's kind of nothing around. And there is his trek was through that. And so you imagine 120 degrees, camels coming through the back end, and that's why no one really expected them as they made their way through here. But this area, again, is, and this was in part of the scene with Lawrence of Arabia as well. Again, just as we took a little, just one of the kids walking around there. And part of the dress, you'll see the long sleeve shirts, that is actually to keep the heat out in a sense. The less exposed skin, the better. So it's fairly common there. The camels walking on the sand there, Sophia. This was some of that hostile territory, nothing but rocks, heat, and sand. These people on the camel, and that just goes for tens of miles. So one of the gentlemen we met there, again, they're all very, very nice. And they don't mind having their picture taken too. So it was just an interesting type of thing as well. Again, everyone looks different, different kinds of headgear. So that takes us through Jordan. Are there any questions to do with any of this? Yeah. Dale, what's up? Huh? What do they do for water there? That's interesting. There must be some type of pipe system that goes down to like some of the major areas where there are water. The people that live in the cave, they don't have water. They must get it from somewhere. But the little tiny towns and whatnot, there was running, when we eat at someplace down there in Wadi Rum, they had running water and things like that. So there must be some kind of pipe system from up north. They don't have what? Any oases? No, not in Wadi. It's too hot. Unlike, Sahara, whatnot, where you see oases, there is none down here. It's just Lawrence of Arabia stuff. They also filmed The Martian there as well. The movie The Martian, too. Any other questions? Debate, issues, if anything. I try to be, like I said, one thing about traveling to there, is that it does really open your mind as well. You realize that not everything is straightforward when you go there. Yeah, question. What? Oh, Lawrence. Oh, yeah, Lawrence of Arabia. You'd be a hero there. You're right. In Wadi Rum, you could see they have little memorials and on rocks. There is a rock there as well in Wadi Rum with Lawrence carved into it as well. He was considered a hero, and that was kind of the origin of Saudi Arabia, the bringing together of all the disparate tribes into one. Then one of the things they were promised then from the British for making this attack was their own nation of some sort as well. So, any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the gentleman in front of the Roman rooms, what was that? I'm not certain. They would tell us at different things, whether it was a forum or someone's home or whatnot, too. But I usually wasn't listening because I was always in the group. I was the one way in the back they were trying to find because I was trying to get the picture. So honestly, I missed a lot of that. But you won't usually find most of these things because the homes are small. You usually see streets like up in Caesarea, where there are a lot of Roman rooms, and not Caesarea, Bet Shean, where there are a lot of Roman rooms in Israel. You will see temples and streets and things like that, and the forums, the bigger things. The only place I've ever seen houses per se, which have to be well preserved, was Pompeii. When that's because the ash covered everything, and they had individual houses. But in these, I think they were more the bigger structures. Yeah. Yeah.
big, big Rome and all that. It's small,
Yeah.
but they still had that classic look that saw there.
Yeah. They had, yeah. So a lot of these were the bigger structures that were there. But it was interesting. You could just, again, was amazing is these places would be roped off in the States, and there you're able just to, just go around and do it. So photographically, it's a very, very interesting part of the world too, because on so many levels, there are so many things going on. And it's actually not that hard to do photography there. And yeah, I did it during film as well as digital. And I'm telling you, digital is a lot easier than film in those days. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, in the back, what you see the Dead Sea, and this picture of the Dead Sea. I'm on the Israeli side, and those mountains you're seeing too are the Jordanian side. The Dead Sea is very small, so anything you see in the distance is Jordan. And Jordan has its own little resorts. No, it's just a hill, that kind of thing as well. Yeah, there's no big mountain in Jordan, but yeah, that and the Jordanian side too. Now that people cross, there are little spas and things on the Jordanian side, so you could actually go across the Allenby crossing and go down the Dead Sea and stay in one of the spots on the Jordanian side. So yeah, that was the Jordanian side you were looking at. There was a question there? Someone else you had a question? Huh? Oh yeah. Yeah, this was and people talk about safety all the time. I tell you, I go to New York City. I think it's just as unsafe there as it's like anything else, or Cleveland. You have to know where to go and where not to go. I'm not wandering into the Gaza Strip. And I am not, crossing the, it's just kind of knowing your area and knowing where to go. But when you're around Jerusalem, Tiberias, any of these cities, Safad, Tel Aviv, and whatnot too, you don't have any safety concerns really as well. So this stuff is background and you're fine. And I think you're just as safe. The biggest deterrence I always hear is people are afraid to go because they think they're in the middle of all this fighting and whatnot. But most of the country, during normal time, now I'm not talking right now where there's occasional missiles coming across and whatnot, but before that and after that is over, it's just like traveling anywhere else. And I never had any problem too. Like I said, up the Golan Heights is wineries, places to stay. It's just, you drive yourself around too. I mean, there's no safer place with all the military around. Huh? Was I what? And Masada, yes, it was in Masada. Masada was also a very interesting place to photograph. A lot of these things become difficult because when you're up on Masada, you're basically up with sand, overlooking sand and whatnot too, and it's very hard to get something interesting. So there are things of historical significance. But the only time I was really scared is I was up in the Golan Heights. This is back in the film days. And I was driving when you saw those shot out Syrian things, and that was not too far from the Syrian border. And I pulled over my car on the side of the road in order to change my film. And you know how to change film in the old days. You have to go down, you have the camera on your lap and change the thing, kind of so the light doesn't fall right on the thing too. And I heard this sound and I looked up, and in the back, now there is no one up in the, Route 92 goes up through the Golan Heights. And I looked in the rearview mirror, turned around, and there is a Humvee with the 50 millimeter on top, and the Israeli soldiers that have pulled over behind me. And I'm thinking a lot of things I'm not going to say on video and whatnot too, but I think I've done it. Crap, this is it. And how am I going to approach this? Should I put my hands on the wheel? Like here, that. Am I going to just get out of the car and tell them, or I'm just going to, this is, or anyway. And I had visions of just not coming back. And so basically, is after sitting there and just sweating it out the whole time, I decided to get out of the car and go approach them and kind of explain. And I got out and I started walking back to them. And I got up close to them. They looked up to me. They were checking something under the engine. They looked at me like, Yeah, you want something? Like, they had, it's like, hey, you got to probably like that, like, oh, hey, no problem, whatnot. It had nothing to do with, so some of this is your own paranoia, too. These places are safe and quite easily to photograph. And yeah. Say what? They have people all when you travel over the world. Yes, people have they have very, very different views of American, and it's interesting because they really do separate out the people from the government. Every place I've traveled, from Mongolia to in these hostile areas, they're very friendly to you as a tourist, and they really like you. But they'll ask you like, what's going on over there? Are you guys crazy or something or what? They'll do it. They're very, very open with it. They'll give you an earful of what they think, which is always very interesting to hear in other countries what they think. But it's never directed at you. They separate you out, and you are. So actually, yes, people are very, regardless of what their opinions are of the government per se. They are very, very friendly. I've never had a problem anywhere with being received. And this is even in the when I was in the Palestinian areas as well, you go to people, and if you're willing to listen, that's it too. If you're an ugly American, I'll tell you, they're going to hate you wherever you go. And you'll see people like that who behave like they're entitled and whatnot too. They are looked down upon. But if you're just a regular person and you're a decent person, things too, and you really listen, yes, I found people friendly all over, and never a problem being an American. Was there another question here? Any others? Yeah. Yeah, the sunset over Tiberias. Seasonal differences in terms of photographing if you were going to go to the Mideast? Actually, no. It's like hotter kind of things too. So they get a little dusting of snow in Jerusalem in the winter or whatnot, but basically climate there doesn't make a difference because it's kind of Jordan certainly doesn't make a difference, and in Israel the seasons are kind of minimal. So going anytime you could see. But whether you're interested in religion, whether you're Jewish, Christian, or anything, you could see there's something for everyone there. If you're interested in politics or geography or photography, I just found it fascinating, just the people there, and went to photograph that. So whatever it is, it's it's just a very interesting place given the current situation. Yeah, Mick. The language barriers? No language barriers too. Almost everyone two things. Almost everyone speaks English. And nowadays, when I used to travel earlier in some places, Mongolia or whatnot, it would be a problem. Russia, they won't speak English to you at all. No signs are in English. But now, not only does most people speak English, especially in the areas you're usually traveling, but mostly everyone there is using Google Translate. And my last trip to China, I was with a lot of people who didn't speak any English whatsoever too. And you just talk into your phone and just hold it up like that. And they take their phone, they just talk back in Chinese and hold it up to you. And it's just a routine thing. The Google Translate also has a photographic thing. You just hold it up to the signs or the restaurant menu, and it shows you it in English too. So it's become less and less of a problem. But in most places too, Jordan, the Mideast, Egypt, and whatnot too, they will speak English in the places you're in. So not that big of a problem too. I mean, basically, is when you realize how Americanized everything is. When I was in Mongolia once in Ulaanbaatar, and I saw this big police vehicle out there on the side, it said SWAT. Now, SWAT is Special Weapons Attack. I mean, that's not a Mongolian term, and it wasn't written in Mongolia. It had Mongolian letters, but you realize that there's a lot of Americanization in a lot of places you go. So it's not that, like I said, in Russia, where they purposely will not speak English to you. At least when I went in Moscow, they just even if they can, they won't, and that was a problem. But otherwise, you could be. I mean, you go to Antarctica, the penguins speak English, so it's just not a problem. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for allowing me to fill in. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Richard, for filling like that. I think we probably going to have a history test or geography test after this. Anybody that didn't pick up your ticket for the Crushers game, I've got them up here. We'll see you next week.